Have you ever made a mistake that you thought would ruin your life forever, only to discover it was actually the beginning of something beautiful? That's exactly what happened to Michael Collins, a hardworking single father who never expected that one impulsive night with his new CEO would turn his world upside down, but not in the way he feared. If you've ever believed in second chances or wondered if fate sometimes knows better than we do, this story might just change your perspective. Stay with me until the end to discover how sometimes our greatest regrets can transform into our most precious blessings. If this resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that touch the heart and renew your faith in the unexpected journeys life takes us on. The office Christmas party was supposed to be just another corporate obligation for Michael Collins. At 34, he had mastered the art of making brief appearances at company events before slipping away to return to his 7-year-old daughter, Emma. Tonight was different, though. The babysitter had offered to stay overnight, insisting that he deserved one evening to himself after working tirelessly as both father and mother to Emma since his wife's death 3 years ago. Just one drink, he promised himself as he entered the elegantly decorated hotel ballroom, adjusting his tie nervously. Michael rarely socialized with colleagues outside of work hours. His life was a carefully orchestrated routine of school drop-offs, client meetings, dinner preparations, and bedtime stories. There was no room for spontaneity, and certainly no room for romance. He didn't notice her at first. Alexandra Winters had only been appointed as CEO of Reynolds Marketing Group 2 months ago, and Michael had yet to have a direct conversation with her. At 38, she had a reputation for transforming struggling companies with her innovative strategies and relentless work ethic. The office gossip painted her as brilliant but cold, married to her career rather than interested in personal connections. Collins, right? Creative department? Her voice startled him as he stood alone near the bar, checking his phone for messages from the babysitter. Michael looked up to find Alexandra standing before him, radiant in a simple black dress that contrasted sharply with her confident smile. Her dark hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, so different from the severe bun she wore at the office. Yes, Ms. Winters. Michael Collins, Senior Creative Director. He extended his hand, surprised by her approach. Please, call me Alex. No titles tonight, she said, her eyes warmer than he'd ever seen them in the boardroom. I've been admiring your work since I arrived. The Hartman campaign was brilliant. One conversation led to another. One drink became several. The crowded room seemed to shrink until it contained only the two of them, laughing and talking as if they'd known each other for years. She told him about growing up in a small town with dreams bigger than her circumstances. He shared stories about Emma's latest obsession with astronomy and his struggles to answer her increasingly complex questions about the universe. You should bring her to the planetarium downtown, Alex suggested. I'm something of a space enthusiast myself. Really? The intimidating CEO enjoys stargazing? Michael teased, feeling more relaxed than he had in years. There's a lot you don't know about me, Collins, she replied with a smile that made his heart race. Neither of them planned what happened next. The hotel room wasn't premeditated. It was a culmination of shared loneliness, unexpected connection, and perhaps too much champagne. In the gentle darkness, they weren't CEO and employee, but simply two people finding comfort in each other's arms. Morning arrived with harsh clarity. Michael woke to an empty bed and a hastily written note. This was a mistake. Let's be professionals and forget it happened. A.W. The weight of regret crushed him instantly. What had he done? He had jeopardized his career, the stable life he had built for Emma, all for one night of weakness. He imagined the awkward meetings that would follow, the whispers if anyone discovered their indiscretion, the possibility of losing his job if things became uncomfortable. Monday morning arrived with dreaded inevitability. Michael walked into the office with his shoulders tense, prepared for the worst. But when Alexandra passed him in the hallway, she merely nodded professionally, her face betraying nothing of their shared night. It was as if it had never happened at all. Days passed, then weeks. The incident remained unmentioned, buried under meetings and deadlines. Michael convinced himself it had been for the best, focusing instead on his upcoming presentation for their biggest client. The Rosewood account could make or break his department's year, and he had poured everything into the pitch. The evening before the presentation, Michael stayed late at the office, refining details and rehearsing his delivery. Emma was having a sleepover at her best friend's house, giving him rare freedom to work without worry. "You're still here." Alexandra's voice came from his office doorway at nearly 9 o'clock. Michael looked up, startled. She stood there in her usual impeccable suit, but something about her expression seemed different, less guarded, perhaps. "The Rosewood presentation," he explained, gesturing to his cluttered desk. "I want everything to be perfect." She hesitated, then stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "I'd like to see what you've prepared, if you don't mind." For the next 2 hours, they worked side by side, refining his ideas, strengthening his arguments, and identifying potential client concerns. It was strictly professional, but Michael couldn't help noticing how easily they collaborated, how she seemed to understand his creative vision without lengthy explanations. "You have extraordinary talent, Michael," she said as they finished, using his first name for the first time since the Christmas party. "But you're holding back something. There's more to you than what you're showing the world." Before he could respond, she gathered her things. "Same time tomorrow night? After the client meeting? I think we should discuss your future at the company." Those nightly meetings became a routine. After regular business hours, when the office emptied and silence settled over the building, Alexandra would appear at his door. Sometimes they discussed work, marketing strategies, client relationships, industry trends. Other times, their conversations wandered into unexpected territory. "Why didn't you ever remarry?" she asked one evening, perched on the edge of his desk. Michael looked up from his computer, surprised by the personal question. "Raising Emma alone is challenging enough. And honestly, after losing Sarah, I couldn't imagine finding that kind of connection again." "Until the Christmas party?" Her directness caught him off guard. "I thought we weren't mentioning that night," he said carefully. Alexandra stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. "Do you regret it?" "I did," he admitted. "But now, I'm not so sure." Their evening meetings continued for months, evolving from strictly professional consultations to something more intimate, not physically, but emotionally. Michael learned that beneath Alexandra's powerful exterior lay a woman who had sacrificed personal connections for professional success, who questioned her choices at night when the corporate armor came off. "My father always said I'd have to choose, career or family," she confessed one night. "I believed him and never looked back. Until recently." Meanwhile, at home, Emma was noticing changes in her father. "You're smiling more, Daddy," she observed one morning as he made pancakes shaped like stars. "Is it because of your boss? The lady in the picture on your phone?" Michael nearly dropped the spatula. "What picture?" "The one you look at when you think I'm not watching," Emma said with the innocent perception of a child. "She's pretty." He couldn't deny it. Alexandra had sent him a photo of herself at a conference, asking his opinion on her presentation outfit. He'd saved it, finding himself looking at it more often than he cared to admit. "She's just someone I work with, sweetheart," he explained, knowing his daughter deserved more honesty than that. "Does she make you happy?" "Because you look happy when you talk about her." Out of the mouths of babes, Michael thought. Did Alexandra make him happy? These evening conversations, these glimpses behind her professional facade, had become the highlight of his days. But the complexity of their situation, the power dynamics, the workplace considerations, his responsibility to Emma, made any potential relationship seem impossible. The turning point came unexpectedly. One evening, Alexandra didn't show up for their nightly meeting. Concerned, Michael called her cell phone, but there was no answer. It wasn't like her to miss their time together without notice. The next morning, news spread through the office that Alexandra's father had suffered a severe stroke. She had flown immediately to her hometown in Oregon to be with him. Days passed with no word. Michael found himself missing their conversations, worrying about her, wondering if her father would recover. He debated reaching out again but hesitated, unsure if she would welcome his support or see it as an intrusion. A week later, Emma came down with a high fever that wouldn't break. The pediatrician diagnosed a severe case of influenza and recommended hospitalization. For 3 days and nights, Michael sat beside his daughter's hospital bed, watching her small body fight the illness, terrified of losing another person he loved. On the second night, while Emma slept fitfully under the influence of medication, Michael's phone vibrated with a text message. Just heard about Emma. Which hospital? Which room? 20 minutes later, Alexandra appeared in the doorway of Emma's hospital room, her hair disheveled, her eyes red from what looked like recent tears. Without a word, she crossed to Michael and pulled him into a tight embrace. "I'm so sorry about your father," he whispered into her hair. "And I'm sorry about Emma," she responded, pulling back to look at the sleeping child. "How is she?" "The doctors say she'll recover, but these have been the longest days of my life." Alexandra stayed with him that night, sitting in the uncomfortable hospital chair, talking quietly about her father's condition, which had stabilized but left him partially paralyzed. She spoke of family obligations, of reconsidering her priorities, of regrets. "When my assistant told me about Emma, I realized something," she said as dawn began to break through the window. "I realized that what happens to you and your daughter matters to me. More than it should, perhaps." Emma stirred then, opening her eyes to see the unfamiliar woman sitting beside her father. "Are you Daddy's boss lady?" she asked, her voice weak from illness. Alexandra smiled gently. "I suppose I am." "He keeps your picture on his phone," Emma informed her matter-of-factly. "He looks at it a lot." Michael felt his face flush with embarrassment, but Alexandra's delighted laugh eased his discomfort. "Does he now?" she asked, her eyes finding Michael's with new warmth. "Well, I happen to have a picture of your daddy on my phone too." As Emma recovered and returned home, Alexandra began to integrate herself into their lives beyond the office. Weekend visits to the planetarium, as she had once suggested. Sunday brunches where Emma chattered endlessly about school while Alexandra listened with genuine interest. Movie nights where they all fell asleep on the couch, only to wake with stiff necks and no regrets. Their nightly meetings at the office continued, but now they held new meaning. They talked about the future, not just career trajectories and company strategies, but personal hopes and fears. "I'm thinking about stepping back," Alexandra confessed one evening. "Not leaving entirely, but restructuring my role. My father's situation has made me realize how quickly life can change." "What would that mean for us?" Michael asked, the question heavy with implications. "It would mean I wouldn't be your direct superior anymore," she replied carefully. "The board is considering creating a chairperson position that would oversee big-picture direction while a new CEO handles day-to-day operations." "And if that happens?" Alexandra moved closer, her professional demeanor slipping away. "Then I'd like to see where this could go. Properly this time. Not as a regrettable one-night stand, but as something real." The transition wasn't seamless. The board took time to approve Alexandra's proposed restructuring. Office gossip inevitably circulated when their relationship became more apparent. Some colleagues questioned Michael's recent promotion to creative director, suggesting favoritism despite his obvious qualifications. 6 months after Emma's hospitalization, Alexandra officially moved from CEO to chairperson of the board, and their relationship became public. They navigated the challenges together, the questioning looks, the adjustment period for Emma, the balance of career and personal life that both had struggled with individually. "Do you ever regret that night at the Christmas party?" Alexandra asked one evening as they sat on Michael's porch swing, watching Emma chase fireflies in the yard. Michael considered the question, remembering the panic and regret he had felt that morning after, the weeks of awkwardness that followed, the gradual building of something genuine through their nightly meetings. "I regretted it until I didn't," he answered honestly. "Until I realized that sometimes what seems like a mistake is actually the universe nudging you toward where you're supposed to be." Emma ran up to them then, her hands cupped around a captured firefly, its light glowing between her fingers. "Look what I caught," she exclaimed, opening her hand slightly to show them the twinkling insect. "It's beautiful," Alexandra said, smiling at the child who had, against all expectations, become so dear to her. "But you know what happens when you keep beautiful things trapped too long?" Emma nodded solemnly. "They die." "That's right. Sometimes we have to let things go to truly appreciate them." As Emma released the firefly, watching it rise into the darkening sky, Michael reached for Alexandra's hand. "I think there's a lesson in there for us," he said quietly. She turned to him, her expression curious. "What's that?" "That the things that matter most can't be controlled or contained. Not regrets, not fears, not even love. We just have to be brave enough to let them transform us." A year after their first Christmas party encounter, Michael and Alexandra stood together under the same hotel ballroom chandeliers, surrounded by colleagues and friends. This time, there was no sneaking away, no regrets to face in the morning. Emma twirled in her new party dress nearby, proudly showing off the star-shaped pendant Alexandra had given her, a constellation representing their unlikely family. "I have something for you," Alexandra said, pressing a small box into Michael's hand. Inside was a key, simple and unadorned. "A key to your heart," he teased. "A key to my home," she corrected, suddenly serious. "Or rather, what could be our home? If you and Emma wanted that." Michael looked at the woman before him, the formidable CEO who had shown him her vulnerabilities, the career-focused executive who had found room in her heart for a young girl's telescope and teddy bears, the person who had transformed his greatest regret into his most precious second chance. "Are you sure?" he asked, knowing what this step would mean. "I've never been more certain of anything," she replied. "Those nightly meetings in your office showed me who you really are, Michael. Not just the dedicated father or the talented creative director, but the man who listened when no one else did, who saw me as more than my title." Emma bounded over, sensing an important moment. "What are you talking about?" Michael knelt to his daughter's level, the key clutched in his hand. "Alex has asked if we might want to live together, as a family." Emma's eyes widened. "In her big house with the garden?" Alexandra laughed. "Yes, in that house. Though I was thinking we might add a tree house. Every kid needs a tree house, don't you think?" The child's enthusiastic approval was immediate and definitive, but Michael took a moment longer, looking up at the woman who had changed everything. "From one night of regret to a lifetime together," he said softly. "Who would have thought?" Alexandra reached down to touch his face gently. "Sometimes the best things in life begin with a mistake, don't they?" As they embraced, with Emma wrapping her arms around both of them, Michael reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From that morning of shame and regret, through those transformative nightly meetings, to this moment of perfect clarity, life had a way of taking our worst decisions and turning them into unexpected blessings. Their story wasn't perfect. There would be challenges ahead, balancing careers and family, navigating the complexities of their relationship in professional settings, helping Emma process this new family structure. But standing there together, Michael knew one thing with absolute certainty: some mistakes aren't mistakes at all, but the beginning of something beautiful we weren't brave enough to seek on our own. And sometimes, the meetings that change everything aren't the ones in boardrooms with clients, but the quiet ones after hours, when masks fall away and hearts speak truthfully. Life rarely follows the path we expect. For Michael Collins, a single dad who once regretted one impulsive night with his CEO, the unexpected journey led to something far greater than he could have imagined, not just love, but family, belonging, and the kind of second chance that comes along once in a lifetime. If you've stayed with us until the end of this story, Perhaps you found something that resonates with your own life, a reminder that regrets can transform into blessings, that connections can form in the most unexpected circumstances, and that sometimes what seems like an ending is actually just the beginning. If Michael and Alexandra's journey touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that celebrate life's unexpected turns and the courage it takes to embrace them. Remember, your greatest mistake might just be the first step toward your greatest joy.